Okay, everybody, welcome. Sorry. Ooh, there we go. Let me get down there. Let me get that thing out of there. Welcome. Sorry about that. There's a little bit of a technical issue on the other end, I guess, but I was on with Shane. Let me just double check the waiting room here. I think I let everybody in. Oh. Hold on. A couple more. All right. Welcome to the second meeting. Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. Perfect. All righty. Again, sorry about that. We had a little snafu. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to change the lighting. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Welcome to the second meeting. If you have any questions as I go, feel free to chime in, or you can go ahead and put them into the chat. We'll kind of get to them as we go. We are going to go over the test today as part of the review. Before I do that, just a couple of other quick things. First off, don't forget to get that you have to have done the rules meeting before you can do any softball. All right. It's not like in the past where, you know, I know I think they changed it last year too. But you need to go through that rules meeting before you can do any games. All right. It's not like before where you had to have it done just before the state tournament. So just kind of keep that in mind. So make sure you get on and do that. The good news is that you no longer have to do the concussion part if you've already done it for another sport, which most people have. What else do they want me to go over? Make sure that you are going in and updating your schedule. If you are interested in anything beyond districts, even if you aren't, you should probably still update your schedule, but go in there and update it. If you have any questions on how to do that, I know I've been like the second or third year now of doing it online. Let me know. I can walk you through it, but keep doing that. Make sure you go in and with the dates as well. And accept those dates that you can if you are interested in going past the districts. The other thing to do too is, and I see some people already doing it, please go ahead in the chat, put in your just your name and your MHSAA ID. That way Shane will make sure to get, or whoever will make sure to get you credit for being at the meeting. So any other questions right now? All right. I'll go over this, and again, there's a few other things, and we'll just hit them at the end of the meeting. So,
hey, Ryan, can I verbally ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
So what is the rule regarding temperature? I mean, this has really kind of bothered me. Last year when we had a game that was 30 degrees real feel. I know in college they have it pretty tight where anything below 32 you don't play. What is there, or is that a league issue?
That would be a league. There's nothing in the NFHS that I know of. And I mean, can't think of anything. There's nothing in the NFHS about weather with that. There is, and as far as I know, the MHSAA does not have a rule. I can check on that, but I've never heard of it being where they've had to call it because it's too cold. I mean, they've called it before because it's too cold, but I've never heard of anybody like, by rule, it's, we've hit that cutoff. I know a lot of teams don't want to play in the cold, obviously, and especially with $400 bats that they can't use in the cold, but I do not. I'll make a note of that and I will ask, but yeah, that might be a league rule or anything, but as far as I know, it's not an MHSAA rule. I've never heard it before with it in my life. So, but I will check on it.
I mean, that just goes back to, is it safe? And if we do not feel it's safe, then it's not safe.
Right. Any other quick questions before we start, or? In the past, I've just kind of gone through these. If that's what everybody wants me to do, we can do that again. If anybody has any questions about any of them, please ask again. But number one, while the umpires are walking the field prior to the game, they notice all of the following in a player's hair. Which one is illegal? And the answer is going to be C, the bandana. They've changed those rules a lot in the past couple years, and that's still the one that is. And I'm good with it. Yeah, I mean, I'm really, and I'm sure most of us are happy because that's one less, for lack of a better way to put it, silly thing that we have to police. 2, B1 lays down a bunt in front of home plate. F2 fields the ball and throws it to first base to try and retire B1. The ball hits B1 5 feet in front of first base while both feet are in the air and both feet touched the chalk of the runner's lane when they last contacted the ground. Anybody got any opinions on that one? Are they out or are they not out?
Not out.
Not out, right? Yep. Yep. A. B1 is legally inside the runner's lane. Ball remains live. And that's one that you're going to see a lot. I don't say you'll see a lot of, but that's one that you will see throughout the year. Right there on that lane. Make sure you're familiar with that rule about it depends where the foot has last touched. 3, in the third inning, the umpire notices a crack in a bat A1 is using and removes it from the game. In the fourth inning, A2 comes to bat. And after the first pitch, the umpire notices that the bat is the same bat that was removed in the inning before. There's a couple of good things with this. First of all, what's the penalty, or is there a penalty, and how do you adjudicate it? It's going to be B. A2 is out. Both A2 and the coach are restricted. Couple of things about this that I kind of actually like the question. Number one, they've changed about damaged bats, and especially, Steve, you brought up the cold. We're going to see bats get damaged. If it's while a player is, batting, if a player walks up with it and it's not noticed before, hey, we just remove a damaged bat. It's not an altered bat. It's not an illegal bat. It's just a damaged bat. If they do try and use it again, that is when the penalty comes into play. And the thing with this penalty is, remember, it's a restriction, not an ejection. So in a doubleheader, that player could play in the second game. All right. Just kind of keep that in mind.
Hey, Ryan,
Yes.
is there any practical way to try and keep track of that? Because let's be honest, if we have a cracked bat and we tell them that they can't use it, they probably got like 5 or 6 red bats, for example, that they probably could try and sneak it in. We wouldn't have any clue. Is there any way to try and be proactive about that?
I would walk over and I would tell the coach, look, here's the deal. You're going to want to put this away, because if someone walks up with it on accident, I got to sit you down. I got to sit the player down, and it's going to cost you an out. Put it, and just tell the coach, get it out of here. Just,
Right.
Hey, if it's the home team, have them, most home teams have a storage thing next to their dugout, put it in there. If it's a visiting team, just get it out of the dugout, coach. Let's not. And then I think that, if you're proactive with them like that, like I don't want to have to, none of us want to have to do that. Hey, you know what? Just get it out of here, and so that way a girl doesn't accidentally grab that bat. So,
All right.
Which of the following is considered illegal attire for a coach in a live ball area? And it's D, blue jeans. When it comes to attire, especially those first few weeks, I understand they don't want blue jeans, but just like with the girls, be flexible. It's 40 degrees out. We're wearing every article of clothing we can have. They're going to be wearing every article of clothing they can have. Be be realistic about, let's not make him get out there and, freeze to death, because we're trying to enforce, something silly. 5, the pitcher is standing behind the pitcher's plate and has no part of either foot in contact with the pitcher's plate. The pitcher looks over to the head coach, who gives a verbal signal. The pitcher then looks down at the wristband that holds a placard with numbers. The pitcher then takes a legal position on the pitcher's plate with the hands separated and simulates taking a signal from the catcher before beginning the pitch. Is this legal or illegal?
Legal.
We're legal. They can take a signal from anywhere they want as long as they still simulate the signal once they get on the rubber. Most varsity coaches know that. When you're doing some sub varsity, you might run into, they're not allowed to take it off. They're not allowed to take it off the rubber. They're not allowed to take it off. Nope. They 100% can, so long as they still simulate taking the signal. Here's the big one. 6. How many warm-up pitches maximum is a pitcher allowed between innings?
5.
5. And you know what? Enforce that. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, we might not as much. It's cold. Someone gets out there with a long inning. Let's not let somebody get hurt. But hey, you know what? You get 5 innings. It's supposed to be a minute between. And that's something that you can pregame. We'll talk a little bit about pregame at the end. Hey, coach, you get a minute. Okay, they want us hustle them, and they really do. That's a big push from the state. The MLB's kind of started that. Now the states are pushing that down. Coach, you got a minute. Have someone to warm up the pitcher. Have, if they want to all come together in the circle, they're going to get 1 pitch. Now I don't care which it is. It's your choice. Hey, however they want to do it, but they got a minute.
Hey, Ryan, can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Along the lines of warm-up pitches, one thing that I kind of bothered me just because I had an incident is while the pitcher's warming up, the batters like to try to get a competitive advantage. And there are times where they're practically standing just on the other side of the batter's box, and I kind of push them away. What is the specific rule that I can tell a coach in the batter's box? Right?
Must be in the on-deck circle.
Or that's what I meant.
The on-deck area. Yep. In the on-deck area. Yep. Absolutely. Now, are you going to have 2 kids out there? You know what? That's fine. Even though, as long as they're right there. I always tell them, and Steve, this in college, that's considered very unsporting, and they will throw at you for that. That gets a ball tossed at you. And I just, coach, by rule, they have to be back there. By rule, they're supposed to be there. I'm not going to keep them in, because you're going to have 2 kids out there, but by rule, they need to be back there. And again, that's one of those things where, 2 of my favorite words, by rule, because then it's not what you think. It's not what anybody else thinks. There's no opinion in it. It's just by rule. Number 7, during the act of pitching, which movement is not legal? And that's going to be the C, the throw, hop, or leap. Keep in mind as the season goes on, and we're going to see fields get tore up, and you're going to be doing tournaments on some fields that aren't the greatest. It's not a leap if they're going straight across the hole. If there's that hole there, if there's that ditch there, as long as they're not gaining a competitive advantage, as long as they're not jumping, if that toe would be dragging, they're pretty much good. 8, all the following are true regarding gloves, mitts, except. Okay, yep.
2 colors.
Yes. Gloves shall be a maximum of 2 colors, excluding lacing and the manufacturer's logo. Again, you know what? I hope that a company doesn't make one that's an optic yellow glove, but we've all been around enough to know that there's somebody out there that's going to have an optic yellow glove. I think what they did with this is basically they made one less thing for us to kind of have to worry about. You know, then you don't have a coach coming out there and telling you, oh, she's got too many colors on her glove. She's got this, she's got that. It's, hey, coach, it's not optic yellow. We're good. R1 is on third base and R2 is on first base with one out. B4 hits a fly ball in foul territory near the first baseline. R2 interferes with F3 attempting to catch the fly ball. The correct call is
C.
Yep. The ball is dead. R2 is out and B4 is charged with a foul ball. All right. After the lineup cards have been submitted to and verified by the plate umpire, the opposing coach has a player arrive late and wants to add that player to the lineup. Can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. What does it cost the coach? It costs the coach what?
A team
Warning.
A warning. Yep. So C, yep. Gets a warning. Now where this is, and basketball guys will understand this. You can make more than one correction at that point, just like with a basketball book. That warning, so if it's two girls arrive, does that make sense? They were driving together and they got there late or whatever it was. You can do both of them at the same time. Does that make sense? Okay, but if one arrives, he fixes it, gets it back, and then an inning later, someone else arrives, then we've got a totally different issue. So
that may be a time when you want to be proactive. Like if a coach says at a pregame, I have a player running right, you might want to say, well, add him now just to be safe.
yes. Yes. That's one of those, yes, we're kind of, again, at the pregame, kind of, use the pregame to get yourself out of trouble. All right, 11. Everybody's favorite rule, the DP flex. The DP may be substituted for at any time by
A and B only.
Yep. So a legal substitute and the flex. They're going to play offense. There's a good sheet. If you go on to the MHSAA website, they've got a little card that kind of goes over that. And I've got the one I know that I had that at least used to be posted on the MDAO website, where it's kind of, there's nothing wrong with having that cheat sheet in you, in your in your notebook right there. And just to kind of double check it yourself, because you know what, at times, especially if a coach will say it funny, or a coach will they'll try and do something with the DP flex that's really simple, but then they don't understand it, and so they ask it in a crazy convoluted way. Nothing wrong with double checking it and making sure you're good.
What's the answer? What letter?
Oh, the letter is a D.
D.
A
D is in David.
D is in dog.
Yes. All right. All right. 12, at the pregame conference, the home team coach informs the umpires that the fence in left field is only 180 feet and all balls hit over the fence will be a 2-base award.
Must be Greenfield Village.
Yeah. No, ground rules don't supersede. And I mean, we've all had some goofy ground rules in our lives. We've all had some, but no, ground rules don't get to supersede the actual rules. Much as they would like it to. Yeah, that's one I've never had, but yeah. I had a coach try and convince me once that, like, no, coach, we don't call it out of play. We just say it's a do-over. I'm like, no. 13, with R1 on first base and B2 at the plate, with a 1-ball, 1-strike count, B2 moves to the front of the batter's box. As B2 fakes a drag bunt, B2 withdraws the bat and is struck by the pitch that is in front of the plate. In the umpire's judgment, the ball was prevented from entering the strike zone. What is the correct ruling?
D.
C.
It's C. Yep. It's a dead ball strike.
Or
Go ahead. If there were two strikes,
C or B?
C is in Charlie.
Hmm.
Because there's only a one strike count. If there were two strikes, you'd have D. So it's C, it's a dead ball, it's a strike, batter's count now is 1 and 2. And you're ready to have a very, very, very interesting talk with the coach. And hey, and if it's there, call it. If it's, especially when it's those, if it's 100% obvious, but just, hey, be 100% sure. And just know that understandably so, that coach is going to come out and you're going to have to talk about that. That's going to be one that you're going to have to talk about probably. 14, as F1 starts the pitch, B1 requests time by stepping out of the box. The pitcher legally delivers the ball. What is the correct ruling?
D.
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 Yep, D. That's a strike. It shoots over your head, it's a strike. Rolls across, it's a strike. Okay. 15. Well, let me ask this one. And conversely, that same thing happens. The pitcher thinks that you've granted time when you haven't. And so they stop in the middle of their windup. What do you have?
Nothing.
No
You
pitch.
kill play right away and you reset both players and start over from scratch.
Yep. Kill it. Yep. The thing you definitely do not have is an illegal pitch. And you let the pitcher know you will call time. She delivers it until you stop her. All right. The batter doesn't stop her, you stop her. Make sure that she's clear with that. 15. R1 is on first base and attempts to steal second base. In the catcher's attempt to throw out R1, the throwing arm contacts the plate umpire. The throw is late and R1 reaches second base safely. The correct call is
C.
C.
C. Yep, it's a delayed dead ball because there was an umpire interference and R1 reached second base safely. R1 must return to first base. Now, had they gotten R1 out at second? Is there anything?
Play stands.
Delayed dead ball at play stands. That's another one that no one's going to like. 16, B1 hits a ground ball that goes past F3. No other fielder had a chance to make an out, but the ball strikes the umpire. The correct call is
Ball C.
Yep. Ball remains live. Ball remains live. It's not umpire interference. There's nothing there if no one else has that opportunity to make a play on it.
Now, baseball has a different rule, right, Ryan?
Yeah,
Where
I
it's
don't know.
I
No,
think you sure? I
umpires,
thought
umpires dirt.
Yep.
That's because the umpire's always in the way. And it's a hard ball.
I'm not. You'd have to ask somebody else. I'm not a hardball guy. Yeah, and again, that's one that you don't want to have happen. Most of the time, when I've seen umpires get hit, it's not by a direct shot. It's by they're off to the side and someone then misplays a ball, and unfortunately, then
It deflects.
it deflects into you, and you have zero time to move. You're in the C, and the shortstop, it goes off the edge of their mitt, and all of a sudden it's hitting you. 17, with one out, R1 on third base and R2 on first base, B4 hits an over the fence home run. R2 misses third base and the third base coach grabs R2 and pulls the runner back to touch third base. What is the proper ruling?
A. I think it's C, D, but A.
It's A. R2 is out for being physically assisted. R1 and B4, as long as they legally score, runs would count.
Does an interference call for a dead ball? Is
Well-
that considered interference?
Physically assisting runner is still a live ball. It's one of
It's
those
still a
weird
live ball.
exceptions.
Yep, it's still, that's one of those, it's kind of a weird one. On that one, but yeah, it's still a live ball. You're gonna call it. You're gonna point, you're gonna make sure that people know that you've called it. But yeah, the play continues because let's take the home run out of it. Let's take the home run out of it. If you have a situation where I've had a situation where coaches grabbed a girl, taking her back, grabbed her girl coming around third. Hey, you missed third, sends her back. She's out, but they're still making plays on, players in the infield. Those plays are still live. So it's a weird one in the sense that they call it interference and that, you don't kill it right away. But yeah, no, it's not a dead ball right away. You call it right away. But the play remains live.
If it wasn't a home
the batter
run.
who hit the home run, if the batter who
What
hit
if
the
it
home
wasn't a
run,
home run?
If it wasn't a home run,
Then she couldn't score, right?
okay, who couldn't score?
The B4.
She could still score. It's still a live ball. It's still, so that coach causes that interference. You call her out. The other
So he
people
got an
still
out
moving
in
around.
front of her but the ball's still live.
Mhm.
What if there's two outs?
yeah, if that's the third out, then the batter does not get the home run. That run does not count.
That's
Right.
right.
So then what happens is if there's two outs, right now you become, you get into when do runs score, when do runs cross, when do runs do things. Because who was that? Let me look at it. It was at R1 on third base and R2 on first base. So
then it's timing play.
right, then it's a timing play. And so then you're looking at like
Good job, Brian.
R1's run would score.
But R4s would B4 would.
Before, yeah. Basically what you're hoping for right there is that never happens. And if it does, there's only one out. And that's one of those ones where you're gonna seriously, what's gonna have to happen is you're gonna bring both coaches out, you're gonna bring both scorekeepers out, you're gonna have to explain the exact situation. You're gonna have to tell the scorekeepers how to score it, just like you do sometimes with goofy things. And you're gonna have to go through that. And that's how that one's going to end up going, and unless you're lucky enough to have two coaches that completely and 100% understand it and saw it happen and 100% know the rule, and two scorekeepers that 100% know the rule. That's going to be one where you're going to have them out there and you're going to have to talk them and explain exactly what happened. And which runs score.
What kind of a at bat would the batter get? Would they still get a home run even though they didn't score, or would they only
No.
get a single?
Ooh, you know what? That goes into a scorekeeping thing. That I don't know. That you'd have to look up. That's Rule 10, I believe. So I don't know how that would count. You mean like would that count as a home run for them, or would that count as a single for them?
Yeah, even
No
because they
idea.
didn't score.
Right,
Same with any other timing play.
right.
They get the number of bases at the time that the play has been made.
And I think that sounds about right. I'm not 100% sure on it, but it's no different than when like, you've had that goofy. So you have the third out. You have a batter hit a ball. They hit it between second and third. Girl running from second to third interferes with it. Right, we've got an out, but then that batter is still credited with a single in the book. And so, you always have to go up and remind them that, hey, don't forget, she's not up to bat again. It's one of those weird situations like that. And so I think you are right.
Fielder's choice.
Yes. It's basically, Regardless, she's not up to bat is the big one, is because otherwise they will try and a lot of times they'll try and send her back up to bat. And again, you want to just avoid that. Any other questions on that one? 18, the umpire notices F6 is wearing a smartwatch on the playing field. Which of the following is true?
A.
A.
Mhm. And smartwatch, it's A. Smartwatches are allowed as long as they are not used to communicate outside the dugout.
You know, that the question that comes up when I hear that, what about, some of these guys are keeping their book on pads and computers.
That's
How do I know
fine.
the difference when they're communicating with them and just keeping score?
Well, so here's what I would say. You got the coach at third base that's doing that. No one else should have one, especially out in the field. There's no reason for anybody to have one. So there we go. If someone's accusing them of like videotaping or things like that, the way that I've handled that, I've told people to handle that is just tell the coach, hey, coach, do you mind putting a piece of tape over the camera? That solves that problem. If, the other team is kind of being accusatory towards that. The smartwatch is the one that I think that could, and I don't know. I mean, they already wear, the wrist thing. So I don't see why a coach would try and use a smartwatch to send in signals to a pitcher. But I'm sure that somehow somebody can think there could be an advantage.
They could be on the phone
Yeah.
on their watch.
I'm sure somehow there could be it, but my thought is, and I was talking with a couple other trainers on this, because, Team A accuses Team B of sending in signals via smartwatch. Team B is like, well, no, we're not doing it. We're not going to like look at smartwatches. We're not going to do this. We're not going to. My thought is you use the one part of the jewelry rule where about it being distracting. Hey, coach, you know what? We're getting some light off of it. We're getting some light off of it from the pitcher's wrist. We're getting some light off of it. She's got to take it off.
It doesn't have to be justified. If it's
Right.
distracting, it's distracting.
Yep. And you know what? My thing is then is, you'll know right away if they were doing it or not. Because if they weren't doing anything, it comes off no problems. They were doing something, they argue. Either way, like Brian says, hey, it comes off. If you do have a coach that does that, that complains, let me know, because this was a concern that was kind of brought up with the state with this. Like, hey, how do we want to handle these situations? Because we're not playing detective. We're not playing detective on these things. And so they would just like to know, is this how many of these situations are happening or not happening? But I don't think they think a lot will happen. I personally don't think a lot will happen, but they would like to know. So, any other questions about the smartwatch? 19. B1 bunts the ball in front of home plate. As B1 is running to first base, B1 is hit with the throw from F2. Which of the following is used to determine if the runner is out for interference?
A.
Yeah.
A. Yep. The other thing is, don't forget too, is they've got to actually get to the running lane before the interference would apply too. So if you get a catcher that gets up, fires up, gets out, and gets that ball out there really, really, really quick, that runner, they get to that 30-foot lane first. So, that would have to be a very quick catcher, but you do enough games, you see some weird things.
Well, the answer is A.
The answer is A. Yep. A run does not score if a preceding runner is declared the fourth out for missing a base and the defensive team selects that out to its advantage.
True.
That's true. And that was something they clarified, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago about, you know, getting that fourth out. Excuse me, to not count a run. Any questions so far? Anything?
Well, that one's true, 20. I don't have the test in front of me.
Oh, you don't
20
have
is
it?
true.
No, 20, what did 20 say?
Yeah, 20 is true.
Yep, A, true, yes. 21. B1 hits a high fly ball down the line to right field. F9 with both feet clearly in fair territory reaches across the foul line in an attempt to catch the ball. While the ball is still in the air, completely over foul ground, the ball deflects off F9's glove and lands in fair territory. The correct call is
Hey,
A.
Foul ball.
yep.
foul ball. Doesn't matter where your feet are. Matters where the ball is. 22. Team A's players are wearing red exposed upper body undergarments, but solid black placards. F1 is wearing a placard on the non-pitching arm. F3, who is the team's backup pitcher, is wearing a placard on the non-glove arm. Which statement is correct?
B and C.
Yes, B and C.
B.
All right. It's legal provided the placards are a solid color, not optic yellow, which most of them are usually black because usually they use in football stuff. And C, this is legal. Only F1 has the restriction on placement of the placard on the non-pitching arm. If F3 were to become the pitcher, then F3 would be required to move the placard to the non-pitching arm. So, and most of them keep it on their glove hand. I don't know if I've ever had to tell anybody to move it to their non-pitching arm, thankfully. Any other questions? Okay. 23, with no outs, B1 hits a deep line drive. Sliding into second base safely, B1 dislodges the base from its proper position. F4 tags B1, who is no longer in contact with the dislodged base. What is the proper ruling?
B.
Safe.
B.
B.
C.
B1, C.
C. Yep. B1 is not out. A runner is not required to follow a base that has become dislodged. If that, and hopefully if that's the only one, that's a great time right there. If she's the only offensive player on the field, when she slides in, as soon as they get the ball in and it's obvious that the play is down, the play is done, kill it. She's slid in, they've got the ball in, right? There's no future play, just kill it. B1 steps in the batter's box and the umpire immediately notices the batter is wearing jewelry. Which of the following is not allowed during play? Necklace, small stud earrings, or a standard, they're all allowed.
Yep.
It's D, they're all allowed. Jewelry's allowed. $25. Which of the following shall be labeled on all softballs? And it's C, both the core and the compression.
E is the answer to 25.
C, yep, for 25, yes.
C is in Charles.
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm. 26. Which of the following requires state association approval prior to being allowed to be worn in a contest? And it's A, any head covering being worn for medical reasons. And that was apparently face shields do not include head guards. So 27, a coach will be restricted to the dugout bench for the remainder of the game for a second violation of the following.
All of the above.
Yes. Unreported substitute. Second lineup
What's
correction. And-
what's the answer to 20? I don't have the
27 is D, all of the above.
D is in dog. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And one of the keys there is, and this is something that you should kind of always go over at the beginning of every year, know the difference between an illegal and an unreported sub. Always do that, because most coaches are going to say, oh, that's an illegal sub. That's an illegal sub. You know, that's an illegal. There is a difference between an illegal and an unreported sub. And they're going to, a lot of times they're going to use those terms interchangeably. You need to not do that, because there are different penalties involved and you don't want to confuse the penalties. 28. F1 is wearing an item on the pitching wrist that the umpire judge is distracting. What is the proper penalty?
D.
C.
C.
C. The pitcher is required to remove the distracting item in order to continue to pitch.
E.
No, C, as in Charlie. That's, again, it's one of those by rule ones. It's kind of like when we used to have to enforce jewelry. Coach, she takes the jewelry off or she doesn't play. Coach, she takes this off or she doesn't pitch. It's real simple. There's no, she can't legally pitch until she does it, so there can't be an illegal pitch, if that makes sense. During the MHSAA softball tournament, how are home teams determined? I'll know that. It's a pregame coin flip. And then 30, with the ball in the circle, F1 in F1's possession, and there is no attempt by F1 to make a play on a base runner, when is the runner declared out based on the look back rule?
A.
Hey, yeah.
C.
Hey,
It's A. The batter runner is safe at first base on a drop third strike. She overruns first base, turns to the right, seeing no fielder near second base. She then runs towards second where she is safe.
I disagree.
The secret's turning to the right.
Yes.
If you turn to the left, you get one stop.
Right. If you turn to the left,
So-
but she turns to the right. She runs down, turns to the right, heads back, and then sees, okay, you know what? Like, oh, now I can take off. No, she's already.
No, she's restricted.
Yeah, she committed herself first base.
I got to read that over again.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's very confusing.
I don't have it in front of me. She turns to the right and then runs to second. It doesn't matter which way you turn, it's what your commitment is.
No.
Not
If you-
according to the rules.
Yeah, if you turn left, you get one stop. Then you got to go immediately to the base or take off for second.
Or, right,
And it's
but I can turn right and I turn around and look, and then the ball's thrown over to, or whatever, I can still run to second. You can run to second even if you turn right. Doesn't matter
Right,
which
but-
way you turn.
right. Well,
Oh,
Read the question.
right. Read the question, because it's the ball is in the circle the entire time. You said if
Yeah.
the ball's thrown over and
Oh.
things, yeah, absolutely you can do that. But the ball is in the circle the
Oh.
entire time.
Ryan, I'll read
Oh,
the
I
rule.
don't have it in front of me. Oh,
I have
okay.
the rule in front of me. It says a batter runner who overruns first base towards right field and turns right is committed to first base and must return to first base. That's
Exactly.
a flat out rule.
Mhm. Yep.
It sounds strange because you want to incorporate that moment of stop and then do something, but that's not what the rule.
Are you talking about the batter runner?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 8-7-E or 4E, 8-7-4E. I read those things over and over and over. It was a tough one to find the answer, but there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
but
I always
s-
thought if you're running down to first base and you overrun first base and the ball gets thrown over the first baseman's head, but you'd already turned right, you can run to second.
No,
Right.
we're,
But we're
It's-
talking about if you read the thing, if you had it in front of you, if you read it, what happens here is it's in the pitching
It's the-
circle the entire time. It's never
Yeah,
outside of the pitching
Yeah,
circle.
I know, but he just talked about another rule 874E where you're running down the batter runner. He's talking about running down the first base. He said you can't
Yep.
turn right.
It's
I don't
page
get it.
72. Page 72.
Well, I don't have the book in front of me, so I don't know.
Oh,
I don't have it. I'm just saying, your batter running down the first base, and it runs past first base, and the ball gets away from the first baseman, but the runner turns right. They can run to second, and they don't have to run. They don't have to go back to first, touch first. They just run right over to second.
Correct.
So
not
where are you
according
getting
to
that
the
thing you
rule.
can't- Where are you getting that thing you can't turn right? I don't get that.
Well, you don't have the rule book in front of you, so I read it. It says a batter runner who overruns first base towards right field and turns right is committed to first base and must return to first base.
Yeah, but
That's
if you,
just,
you need to
that's the
step back,
rule.
you need to step back and look at Article 4, where it says, after completing a turn at bat, and while the pitcher has the ball within the 16-foot pitching circle.
That's
Right.
what we're talking about.
I know, but what he's talking about is something different. Before she
No, it
has it.
says it's in the circle.
No, I know,
rule
I
that
agree
he's-
with you. But I think what he's talking about is that if it's not in the circle, she can turn right and then turn and go to second,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
which she
Absolutely.
can't.
Right,
Still a
right.
live ball.
Yeah, it's live. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I'm talking about it's not in the circle.
correct.
That's
Yeah.
different than what this
Yeah,
question
but
is.
this question pertains to the circle. That's what they're asking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So rule 874E pertains to the pitcher having the ball in the circle. That's different than
Mhm.
what you were saying. Okay.
And you know what? While this was on my list of things, first of all, are there any other questions about any of these?
I have a quick question or see if anybody has seen anything like this. As we're in cold weather season, show up at a game and the home team has a heater in their duct and the visiting have one. Is that a problem?
So if the home team has a heater in their dugout, the big issue would be bats being heated. If the heater's on one side and the bats are on the other side of the dugout, 40 feet away,
I was gonna look into it up more because we had that situation at Bethel University and the visiting coach come up and I guess it's a rule. If the home team gets it, the visitor has to be provided it. I'm just curious if that would be,
that would be a league rule, like, you know, maybe the leagues, the KLA or the whoever it is, that's not a that's not a state, that's not a federation rule. You know, the big thing with the heaters in the dugout is, are they too close to are they heating up the bats? You know, and I'm sure we've all had coaches that are, hey, they can't heat the bats. Well, yeah, that's fine. But if you've got a 50-foot dugout and heaters on one side and the bats are on the other side, they're not heating the bat. That's not heating the bats. Now, I will double check that one with Andy, but I have never heard that they have got to be provided. Now, most leagues, I can tell you this as a coach, most leagues, they have got, like, as part of their bylaws, what has to be provided for visiting teams. Like, do visiting teams have to bring water, or does the water get provided? Do they have to bring, you know, in basketball, you know, you're provided a whiteboard and a place to change and this and that. But I have never heard it to where both teams have got to have heaters.
Hey, Ryan, can I ask you quick questions about the batting circle
Yes.
or warm-up circle? So I know there are some schools, and I think West Bloomfield comes to mind, where like the batting circle is practically on top of home plates. Doesn't, the rule says it's 25 feet, right?
Without me looking directly at the rules, I believe that's what it says it has to be at least. Yes.
And, but this is like a, they just put in this field and the batter circle is well within that. I mean, is there like a certain liability or anything if we know if kid's in there and it gets plunked by a ball? Or
Oh, wait.
or
You
should
can always
we-
move it, right?
Yeah, you can always move it. You can
Well,
always,
you know.
and I know, because I'm trying to think here, because West Bloomfield, they did a, they've got a, what's it called?
turf
Turf
field?
right? So it's permanently put there. It's not, they're not drawing it with a chalk line, right? Is what you're basically saying,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I would, I could send you, I'll text you, I'll look up the exact, what the exact dimension is. I don't have a field dimensions in front of me right now about how far away it's got to be. 25 feet does sound right, unless the exception is unless it's shielded. Because I know that like West Bloomfield used to have that, I think, where, you know what I mean? They had like a separate.
Right, but I mean, they're not the only, I want to say Seaholm is also pretty bad. But you get there and sometimes even when they, you know, the guys, they chalk the field and it's like, well, I mean, I'm just trying to keep kids safe.
Yep. And it's yeah, it's easier when you take chalk the field, you just kick the chalk and you're like, coach, they're doing it back there. I'll text you the exact what it's got to be. 25 feet does sound right. I haven't.
Ryan, in the rule book, it says 30 feet.
30 feet.
30
And
feet.
it's from home plate, correct?
Exactly.
30 feet from, not from the box, but from home plate.
I think that doesn't show you that, just shows
Okay.
you 30, says 30 feet.
You know, and that's something, Steve, we're you know what, a report, and you know what I mean? That's one of those reports where, hey, like, look at, like, this has got to be moved. Where, you know, a report to the AD, because then once you make them aware of it and they become liable for it, things start to happen. For lack of a better, you know what I mean? They're gonna make it happen. Or tell the coaches to have them do it somewhere else once they know. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they would make a field, a brand new, you know, $1 million field with the warm-up circle in the wrong spot, but
Well, it's just like the batting, when they put the batter's box backwards, you know?
yep. You know, the architect, I'm sure, thought it looked, you know, more aesthetically pleasing there. So
Hey, Ryan, I have a question. The
Yep.
only way we can control game ending procedures is in the game conference, right?
so, and that's one of my things with pregame. So, and you're talking about as far as, are they doing tiebreaker?
More sub-varsity, you know,
Yep.
or we have a time limit, do we have a run limit?
And that's all stuff, yep, absolutely, to go over in pregame. Now, run limits, 15 after 3, 10 after 5, those are not up for debate. Those are, hey, that happens. Those are part of the rules. You know, some leagues do, by rule, technically, you can call it after a team can give up after down 15 runs after any inning. So, you know, some leagues might say like, hey, 15 runs after any inning. And then as far as time goes, or if they've got like, you know, a different mercy rule or whatever. Yep, all that needs to be brought up at pregame. Bring
Yeah,
that up.
because
Bring up, I've got in my notes here for pregame, just give me a second here. For double headers, make sure that you go over who's home for both teams, because some leagues do it different. Some leagues do, hey, no, we're at our place, we're home for both of these, and we go and we play a double header at your place where you're home for both of them. Some leagues, it's nope, we split. We're home for the first one, you're home for the second one. Go over if they are going to do international tiebreaker, and if so, what inning will it start in? Make sure you go over time limits. Make sure you go over run rules, especially in sub-varsity. You know, make sure you go over if it's limited innings, especially in sub-varsity. You know, where are we playing? You know, what are we doing? Are we doing 2 5s here? Are we doing a 7 and a 5? We doing, you know, first game is, 7, second game is 90 minutes, whatever it is. Make sure you go over all of that in your pregame. Because the leagues out there, they vary a lot. And to be perfectly honest, especially the sub-varsity, people change coaches so much. The coaches don't even know what it is. They just kind of, you'll have sub-varsity coaches that are out there like, well, in the league last year, this is what we did, but that might not be what they're in a new league now, right? They've switched jobs. They're not sure, they're just going with what it was before, and that might not be correct. I know was it last year, the year before, I got a hold of all of the, or most of the bylaws for everything, and I sent them out about what sub-varsity games were. I can talk to Shane. I can see, I can try and do that again. I think I still got a hold of them. I'll double check that they are still accurate. And then I know I think I had the OAA, the KLAA, and the LVCs. The other ones, I never got any response from about what the bylaws were as far as sub-varsity games and time limits. But I will double check those, and I will, when I hear back from the ADs, it won't be this week because everybody's on vacation. I can have Shane send out the copies of what those are.
Hey, Ryan, just quick question. I'm sure the people on here would appreciate the answer to this, but I know basketball, it was kind of nice. They changed the rule that if they cancel the game the day of, you still got paid. I had a doubleheader canceled at 8 o'clock in the morning and I still got paid. It's different for baseball, softball, right? I mean, they could pretty much cancel up till game time. Or what is there any like specific any specific standard? So
the standard is through the MHSAA, and I can send out the part of it, but was if the game was canceled prior to you leaving, and this is by MHSAA. And Steve, was that a change through the MHSAA, or was that a league thing that they did?
I couldn't.
Okay. Because I never got anything about a change. Usually whenever there's changes to that, we get like alerts. It's always been in the past, and I will double check this. If the game was canceled before you left, nothing. If the game was canceled after you left, you were entitled to half pay. Basically, if you got there and then the game was canceled, you were entitled to a game fee. So
I believe if you get canceled the day of, they have to either find you a replacement, but I thought you got paid.
okay. Then I will double check that in if that's changed then. With the officials guidebook, I will double check that. Like I said, usually they give us alerts when that stuff happens. I didn't get anything about it, but
it's just that when you leave, I mean, that's subjective. I mean, there could be guys that are 5 minutes. Some guys that are an hour away.
I totally agree with you. I'm 100%. I always thought it was goofy anyway.
Ryan.
Yes.
Bob Chuck talked about it at the last meeting. Get a hold of Bob Chuck. He said 2 hours. That's what he said. He said, but you're in a contractual agreement. So they're going to do, he's going to do as much as he can for you. That's what he said.
Gotcha. All right. I will find out what exactly it is then.
Now we're talking, when you talk cancellation, weather cancellation, that's a different ballpark, because if it's storming and thunder and rain, yeah,
Right.
they only get paid. But if we're just talking the school thought they were home and then they decided the day before, we're not home, we're away, that's on them then.
And that's 100% different. I guess I took it as when we're talking about cancellations, I was thinking about weather. As far as weather related ones.
Weather's different, yes. You don't get paid if it's storming and you're under a thunderstorm watching, and if they don't contact you by the time you leave, you should get something, but you shouldn't expect to get something if it's pouring down rain and tornado warnings and
Right. And most of the time now, although things have changed, I know that like some schools are obviously better than others because like then, their athletic secretaries, as soon as they know, they can go into Arbiter and they can, they can make the click and then you're getting the alert before anybody's even calling you. Before Bob even calls you, before anybody, whoever your assigner is calls you, you're finding out, boom, it's off because of rain. My thing is I always like around lunchtime, I always called anyway if there was any question just to double check.
And
You know-
there's a lot more artificial turfs,
Right.
so they're taking a lot more water.
Yes. Yep. But it's going to depend on where the turf is. Is it a full turf field or is it just turf in the outfield and those? So,
Exactly.
but
Yeah, Livonia schools can take on a tsunami and they're still playing.
yep. So, couple other things. So we went over pregame.
What about the answer to number 30? Question 30.
30 was A.
Okay, same as 29. 29 was A also.
I believe so. Was 29?
No, 29 was C.
Oh, 29 was C.
29 was C. Oh.
We've referenced the rules a couple times already in this meeting, and one of the things I talk about every year that, especially with smartphones and with iPads and all that, NFHS has the app itself is free. They have a rules app. Now, you can download the app for free. What you do have to pay for is the rules books. You pay, let me double check here. I believe it's $6.99. The name of the app is just NFHS Rules. You pay, I will double check it right now. You pay, I believe it's $6.99 for a year, and you get access to the rules book. And as the year flips and they make rule changes, the rule changes are in there. What's great about the app is it allows you to search by keyword. So there's none, I think we've all been, is that part of like the batter? Would I look that up under picture? You say a word, it literally will bring up everywhere in the rule book where it is, and it will allow you to go, okay, where's the next time that interference, for example, is in a bunch of different spots in the rule book. Look up, you put interference in the search bar. Nope, this isn't where I'm looking for. Click it again. Nope, this isn't. Click it again. Click. Nope. Oh, yep. Here's where I need, right here for interference. It allows you to bookmark. It allows you to do a lot of things. So you can go back for quick references. It's totally, I think, worth the $7. It's, you can get the case book as well like that. But for me, it's on your phone. It's right there. And the key is that you can search by word. Which to me makes it amazing because, you're going to, like I said, with interference, it's in 4 or 5 different sections for sure. And if you're trying to get a ruling on something or trying to look up something to make sure it was done right, it could be in different parts of the book. And this takes it to you really, really, really easy. So the other thing was Bob wanted me to remind everybody, obviously, to keep Arbiter up to date. Famous words. And I think that was about it. I had pregame on mine. I had the NFHS app. I had make sure that, fill out go online and fill out, with your dates, and all of that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The last thing with filling out information for doing, state playoffs. Be sure to put down schools that you have a conflict of interest in. This year in several different tournaments, there's been guys pulled off either the day before or the day of because of glaring conflicts of interest. And don't be that. You know what? They're really good. If you got it on there and you get assigned a game, I'll be perfectly honest, for every year I coach at Wall Lake Northern. Every year, it seems like for the past, for like 5 or 6 years in a row, I would get fortunate enough to get assigned a regional, and it was the regional that Wall Lake Northern could be in. You know what? Just acknowledge it. Hey, I type in, I may have a conflict of interest here. And they're good about it. They're like, hey, you know what? Let us know Monday after districts. If they make it, we'll have to move you. Okay. And they're great about, hey, they'll find you, what I mean? And 99.9% of the time they find you, they just switch your game with somebody else. Because they don't want that. You don't want that. And so just, again, make sure that, if you do have that conflict, just list it and just let them know. And, if you get one of those games, if you get, a regional, if you get a quarterfinal, hey, you're there because you're good enough and they want you working a quarterfinal, they'll just put you on a different quarterfinal is all. Is what usually happens. And so, but you don't want, to not do that. And that leads to all kinds of just complications, let's just say. So that no one wants. Anything else?
Have a good night, Ryan.
You too. I will put my stuff is on the website, but I will put my email right here. And my phone number. If anybody needs to get a hold of me.
Ryan, I don't have that on. What is your phone number?
It's 248-379-8859.
$8859.
Yep. Feel free to give me a call anytime. Usually the phone's easier to get a hold of me. Email, a lot of times I don't do until like later at night or earlier in the morning. So if you get a situation or whatever, just give me a call.
Ryan, can I talk to you a second? This is Joe Tillman. I'm still in Florida. I'm on my phone, so I did not. I just want to make sure I got credit for the meeting today.
Yep, I will make sure. You're obviously on here, and I'll make sure that Shane gets you credit. So.
Okay.
Hey, Tillman,
And
go Irish.
pardon? Go Irish.
Irish.
And to mail my, you know what it is to mail my, I haven't because I haven't done mail my Metro Detroit Official Association, my dues. I mail that to
The website. Go on the website.
Hickory?
The website will be the address.
Okay, Hickory Grove Court, I think. Okay, Southland. Okay, I think
Yep.
it's $50. All right.
Yep. It'll be right on the website.
Thank you.
It'll tell you what to do. So.
Brian,
You
do
did a
you
great
know
job as
everybody that's
usual.
on?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a list of the people that are on this site right now?
So everybody, if everybody should have put their name in the meeting chat.
I have no clue on how to do that.
Okay, I'll make sure that.
Yeah,
they,
I didn't do that either.
Gotcha. Nope. I'll make sure then that they that Shane. So anybody else not put their hold on, wait, so Jim,
Ren Brooks,
Joe Tillman.
Tillman.
I was surprised I could get in this far.
All right.
Great job, Ryan. I appreciate the way you handle the meetings.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And again, gentlemen, any questions or anything like that, please let me know. I will check on the temperature and the heater rule, and then I will verify hopefully the bylaws and get those sent out as well. So any questions, let me know.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
See you next week.
Good night.
Hey, Tim, call me.
Thank you.
All right.